back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final. Back here on the GSMC Football.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth, and it's great to have you guys here on this Tuesday, January 7th. We have a lot to talk about on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. That is gsmcpodcast.net. So let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to talk about Tyreek Hill and his post-game comments after the Dolphins' loss to the Jets, talking about leaving the Dolphins and wanting out. So we'll get into what he had to say, and I'll give you my thoughts on that. Then we'll also talk about some of the coaching decisions that have been made over the past couple of days. We'll talk about the Patriots letting go of Jerod Mayo after one season. We'll also talk about the Giants retaining both Schoen and Brian Daboll, so they'll be back for the 2025-2026 season. We'll talk about the Steelers as well and their loss to the Bengals as they come into the playoffs with little to no momentum. And then we'll also talk about the Bears snapping their losing streak against the Packers, as the Packers are kind of limping into the playoffs a little bit ahead of their matchup against the Eagles on Sunday. I apologize for the late start. Had some technical issues getting in, but I think they were solved, so hopefully there's no issues throughout the broadcast. But yeah, I was dealing with some things that I never dealt with before, particularly with the graphics that you see around me. They weren't popping up for some reason, so I had to keep restarting my computer, and eventually it worked. So I've never had that issue before. Hopefully it doesn't happen again, but if it does, just bear with us throughout the show here. But yeah, let's get into the first topic, which is discussing Tyreek Hill possibly leaving the Dolphins. So he made these comments after the Dolphins' most recent loss to the Jets. The Jets winning that game 32-20, and he was pretty upfront about leaving. So basically, this is what he had to say, and this is courtesy of the Miami Herald. After the game, he said, "This is the first time I haven't been in the playoffs. For me, I have to do what's best for me and my family. If that's here or wherever the case may be, I'm going to open the door for myself. I'm opening the door. I'm out. It was great playing here." So yeah, it was pretty blunt about it. Mike McDaniel made some comments after the game. He said, "I'm not going to be too much weight on secondhand post-game disappointment statements. We will see how the next couple of days progress in convos with him and I." Yeah, so interesting to say there. Javon Holland also commented, at the end of the day, it's a business. He says he has to do whatever is best for his family. That's how he's feeling. As a leader of the team, if he's feeling that way, he has a right to, because he is his own man and he wants to put himself in the best position to be successful as well. If that's how he felt, that's how he felt, and that's how he's going to continue to move. That's his own prerogative. I don't have any negative or positive feelings towards it. And Hill also said, love Finn Nation, blessing, open doors for the Hill family forever, nothing but respect and love. And then he also, so he photoshopped his face over Antonio Brown. When Antonio Brown went off the field against the Jets in 2021, when he took off his uniform and he was throwing his gloves into the crowd, Tyreek Hill photoshopped himself over Antonio Brown. And that's his profile picture. Now, what's kind of funny is that Antonio Brown's last game in the NFL came against the Jets at MetLife Stadium. And could it be possible that Tyreek Hill's last game, well, not that last game entirely, but his last game with his team comes against the Jets at MetLife Stadium? And also the Buccaneers play in Florida. So, just kind of a weird way to tie it all together. Now, Tyreek Hill didn't, take off his uniform and just throw it into the stands, but he is displeased. And looking at his stats from the 2024 season, he did not have as good of a season as he wanted to have. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that Tua was hurt for most of the year. And the Dolphins' offense was pretty bad while Tua was out. And, that is going to have an impact on your production level. Now, you could also say, well, if Tyreek Hill is such a good receiver, he should be able to succeed with whatever quarterback takes over. And that's true. I mean, we've seen receivers over the years produce with no matter what quarterback is behind center. Like, look at DeAndre Hopkins and what he had to deal with his whole career, basically. But yeah, Tyreek Hill, this past season, only 6 touchdowns on the year, under 1,000 yards. He had 959 receiving yards and 81 receptions. Compared to last year, where he had 119 receptions, he had almost 1,800 yards receiving and 13 touchdowns. But again, a lot of that had to do with Tua not being out there. So I'm not really going to say, well, if he was so great, he should still be able to produce. But no, it's just the Dolphins were not a good offense. I mean, look at some of the games that, they had Tyler Huntley playing. And, you had Skylar Thompson in for a game as well. It's just, there wasn't good quarterback play. And had Tua played the whole season, Tyreek Hill's numbers would have been better. And the Dolphins probably are in the postseason right now. But it's just, it's kind of odd that Tyreek Hill has kind of reversed course here, because he has been a huge Tua supporter since he got to Miami. Now all of a sudden you want to jump ship and go elsewhere? Now, I looked into, I went and looked back for why he left Kansas City. And this is what he said on Shannon Sharp's podcast a couple years ago. He said, there'd be some games where I'd get 2 targets, I'd get 3 targets. We'd go into meetings and my coach would be like, we've got to get you involved. We got to get you involved. So I'm calling my agent every week after they say some crazy stuff like that. Like, I've got to get out of here. So he was frustrated with his usage in the Chiefs' offense. So that's part of the reason why he left. And also he said, with no state income tax, I'm basically living in my house for free right now. When talking about, going to Miami. That goes to show how valuable I am to them as opposed to how valuable I could be to Miami. So here I am today. Well, now you flash forward to the end of the 2024 season, and he wants out. And the other thing, too, is he did mention that, he did mention retirement at one point. So I guess, is that just not a thing now? So I'm a little confused there. But, yeah, I mean, it's possible that he moves on. I mean, we see this all the time in the NFL with some of these receivers. If they want out, they eventually get their wish. And, the team finds a suitor, and they're gone. And there's plenty of teams out there that could use Tyreek Hill. But for me, what I would say to Tyreek Hill is, why didn't you just stay with Kansas City? He's so frustrated with the Dolphins' offense and not making the playoffs. Well, guess what? With the Chiefs, missing the playoffs for the first time, you were guaranteed to make the playoffs every year with the Chiefs. And guess what? The Chiefs don't miss you. They have won back-to-back Super Bowls. The first year without you, they won a Super Bowl. Last year, they won a Super Bowl. And who knows? They could be on their way to a three-peat. You could have stayed there, and you could have been making the playoffs every single year. You could have 2 more rings to your resume, but you decided to leave because you weren't being used properly in your eyes. And now you're with the Dolphins, and your quarterback, unfortunately, has had a concussion problem, and he's missed some time over the years. And, well, he wasn't out, these last couple of games because of the concussion. It was for other injuries because he got knocked around this year, dealing with the hip injury. So that's why he missed the last 2 games. With Mahomes is always available. Mahomes pretty much plays every game. 2019, the year that you actually won the Super Bowl, talking to Tyreek Hill, like he's actually here, Mahomes did get hurt, but you still won the Super Bowl. But Patrick Mahomes plays in every game. And the only times he doesn't is the final week of the regular season. So, again, Tyreek Hill really has nobody to blame but himself. And the Dolphins, you made the playoffs the last couple years, but the first year you made it was with Skylar Thompson, and then last year you got knocked out by the Chiefs. So Tyreek Hill should have stayed with the Chiefs, but he wanted out. He wanted a new contract, and this is where he's at now. Now he wants out. So this is something we can keep an eye on. Maybe the Dolphins have conversations with him. Maybe he's just overreacting and he's still a Dolphin next year and they run it back. But it would not surprise me if he ends up going somewhere else. Because, again, this is how these receivers operate. They don't get their targets. Team is not playing well. And they're like, all right, I'm out of here. I don't want to be here anymore. So he could be, once again, looking for a new home. Like I said, there's plenty of teams out there that could use him. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think, though, about this. Does Tyreek Hill end up getting traded this offseason? Let me know in the comments. So we're going to take our first break of the show now. When we come back, we will talk about the Patriots letting go of Jerod Mayo and what they could possibly do, what they could be possibly doing now with letting him go. Who are they bringing in? Probably Mike Vrabel. So we'll get into all that when we return. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. Hey, give me that crown. Get in my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits. Some losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip. You choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we're going to now talk about the Patriots letting go of their head coach, Jerod Mayo, after just one season. And there were some rumblings of that going into the game against the Bills. And I didn't really believe it because I thought, well, Jerod Mayo is their guy. Obviously, played for them as well. Was a linebacker for them back in the day. So I didn't think they were going to pull the plug after one season. But they did. They let him go. And oddly enough, after the Patriots won a game. And that was with Joe Milton playing most of that game. They beat the Bills' backups. And, a lot of people are talking about, well, it's because of the tank and that the Patriots had the number 1 overall pick, and because that they won, he ruined the tank, so they let him go. I'm not going to say that's the reason why, but that's what people are pointing to. The Patriots were in prime position to get the number 1 overall pick, and they won a meaningless game against the Bills, and now they dropped down to number 4. Now, with the number 1 overall pick, the Patriots could have did a lot of things with that. They could have traded down because they don't need a quarterback. They have Drake May. So they're set there. But they could have been a team that could have taken just Travis Hunter. Now you're at the number 4 spot, and you could still trade down if you want. But yeah, so people are looking towards that. Anthony Manzano in the chat says, would give the Patriots franchise a bad look. Let's say they hire Mike Vrabel without interviewing minority candidates for the head coaching position after they fired Mayo. Yeah, the Patriots are going to bring in Mike Vrabel. That's what everybody is pointing to. Mike Vrabel interviewed with the Jets, and supposedly the interview went really well. But part of the reason, at least from what I was reading, is that, and what I'm hearing, is that Mike Vrabel interviewed with the Jets to put pressure on the Patriots to make a decision, let go of Mayo, and, hire him. Mike Vrabel wants the job, is what I'm getting from this. And the Patriots, they let go of Jerod Mayo, who was the successor to Bill Belichick. And Mike Vrabel is going to be the coach, is what I'm getting at here. But what I didn't understand was, if they wanted Mike Vrabel, why didn't they just hire him originally? And I think it was just because Jerod Mayo was already in prime position to get the job, and they were already picking him. They were moving forward with him. So that's why Mike Vrabel, I guess, didn't get a shot. But I just think it's a little ridiculous. I mean, if they wanted Mike Vrabel last year, if they had the opportunity, and he was available, Titans let him go. The Patriots could have had him last year, and then, because this is a bad look, then you would have avoided this. Now, Robert Kraft was saying this was a very tough decision. He's going to say that. But this could have all been avoided. If they really wanted Mike Vrabel, they could have had him. He was available. But now they went through this whole season with Jerod Mayo as the head coach, and they let him go after 1 year. And we've seen this many times now in the NFL where a guy's brought in, he coaches for 1 year, and the franchise lets him go and moves on. It happened to Steve Wilkes. It happened to David Culley of the Texans. Only get 1 year, and then that's it. Now, sometimes they only deserve 1 year. But the Patriots were not supposed to be good this year. This is a rebuild. But Robert Kraft, from some of his comments, he was saying that he didn't like how the team was playing as of late, that there was some regression, and that's what kind of led to the decision. Now, they had a very ugly loss against the Chargers a couple weeks ago. Chargers put up 40 points against them. But they were competitive against the Bills in Buffalo not too long ago. They just came off a win here. I mean, the first game of the year, they beat the Bengals. And what's funny is, had the Bengals had won that game, the Bengals would have been in the playoffs, and the Patriots would have had the number 1 overall pick. That one game had a huge impact on these two teams. But yeah, I guess Robert Kraft just did not like how the team was performing down the stretch here. And he said that was part of the decision. So, yeah, it's unfortunate. Jerod Mayo was done wrong here. Should have been given a longer runway here. But I guess that just was not... I guess that just was not the Patriots' way of thinking at this point. They felt like it was time. Anthony also says in the chat, I want the Dolphins to fire their current OC and bring in Ryan Grubb. Speaking of letting go of people, so I did see that the Titans, they let go of their GM. Yeah, the Titans, it's been a rough couple years for them. And... that's a team that, could be taking a quarterback in this upcoming draft because Will Levis doesn't seem like he's going to be the answer. But that was something that I saw. And we'll also get into the Giants in the next segment, talking about them retaining their GM and their head coach. But, yeah, I feel bad for Jerod Mayo. Again, the Patriots were not expected to be good. That's why it's just I don't know why. I mean, they obviously want to get Mike Vrabel, and that's what people have said. Like, if there's a better candidate out there, it doesn't matter. Like, if you want him, you're gonna have to make a tough decision and let go of your current guy, and that's what they did. But again, like I said, if they had the opportunity, and I guess, how things played out, they didn't. But if they wanted Mike Vrabel last year, they should have found a way to bring him in and avoid this bad look here. And Mike Vrabel, I think, is a good coach. And he's one of the top candidates out there right now. And, he obviously played for the Patriots. And I was reading that when they were honoring him last year, it rubbed the Titans the wrong way when he was talking about the Patriots in his speech. So I guess that part of that led to him being let go after last year. Yeah, and I don't know how true that is, but that's, something that I read. But it's obvious that he's going to get brought in and eventually be named the head coach. And a lot of Jet fans wanted Mike Vrabel. Now, one of my friends who's a Jet fan does not want Mike Vrabel. But that's... If I was the Jets, that would be one of the top guys that I would want to bring in. There's him. Brian Flores is another guy that comes up. Rex Ryan interviewed for the job, and he thinks that he's going to get it. And part of me wants Rex to get it because I just want to see Rex back on the sidelines again and talking to the media. And I just think that would just create a lot of, well, not that the Jets really need this, but this would create a lot of buzz around New York if Rex came back. I'd be all for it. And you know what? Rex won with the Jets. I know it was a long time ago, but he did do that. He was the most recent successful coach for the Jets, even though that was a long time ago. So I'm all for it if it ends up happening. I don't know if he's going to get it. I mean, maybe they go with Brian Flores. Pete Carroll is still out there too. If I was the Giants, I know they're keeping Daboll and Schoen, but I'd bring in Pete Carroll. I don't care how old he is. Pete Carroll's a good coach. And whoever ends up with him, someone should end up with Pete Carroll. Pete Carroll could still coach. If you're a team that is closer to being a playoff team than as opposed to being a team that's rebuilding, you got to bring in Pete Carroll. That's why, if you're the Jets, Pete Carroll's another guy. And Pete Carroll is one too. But, Pete Carroll won a Super Bowl. Rex Ryan didn't win a Super Bowl. But, yeah, it's just a bad look for the Patriots. But you know what? It's a business at the end of the day. It's a business. It was a tough decision for them, a decision they didn't want to make. But they have another candidate in sight that they really want. And it seems like it is Mike Vrabel. So within the coming days, the coming weeks, the coming hours, Mike Vrabel could be the next head coach for the Patriots. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think, though, about this move by the Patriots. What were your takeaways from it? Let me know in the comments. Who knows if Jerod Mayo ever gets another chance to be a head coach? Maybe he does. But, not the best look for the Patriots. But, again, it's a business. I get it. So, before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to hit that super chat button in the chat if you want to see me acknowledge any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. Makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate you guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, GSMCpodcast.net. That is GSMCpodcast.net. So when we get back from our next break, we will talk about a head coach that was retained along with the general manager, and that is the New York Giants. We will talk about them keeping both Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen and what that means for the organization going forward. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the third part of the show, we're going to now talk about Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen being retained, staying put with the Giants, and what that means for the team. So I did bring up, after the Giants beat the Colts 45-33, that I thought that maybe this game might have saved their jobs. Now, I don't know if this was the reason why, but, I mean, I guess maybe it had some part in them staying. But yeah, after a year where the Giants only won 3 games, last year they went 6-11, and the first year with these two guys in place, they made the playoffs. They have regressed. But they are staying, and they will be making this top 3 pick when we get to April's draft. And how I feel about it, I don't feel strongly one way or the other. I definitely was on the side of, look, you only won 3 games. Probably shouldn't come back. But then again, the Giants have gone through this constant cycle of you hire a head coach and a GM, and then they're gone after some time. Now, Eli Manning, I heard he was on, I think it was Good Morning Football. He said that he was happy that they were both retained because it takes time to, build your roster and to do it the right way and what have you. But at this point, for me, the team has gotten worse. They made the playoffs their first season, and they let some guys go, particularly Xavier McKinney and Saquon Barkley. But also, you traded Leonard Williams, Julian Love, you let go, and, it's hurt the team. And on top of that, Joe Shane's previous drafts, not this past draft, but, the previous 2 were not great. So they really have to knock it out of the park with this offseason. And they're in a position right now, like they have the number 3 overall pick, but that does not guarantee that they will get a quarterback. Now, I have said, it's not the worst thing in the world when I was talking about the updated draft order yesterday, because you could go out and get the best player in the draft in Travis Hunter. That is, unless the Titans or the Browns take him, which they're probably going to take a quarterback. The Browns, there was an update. Andrew Berry, their GM, there are reports out there that he said that Deshaun Watson had a setback in his rehab from his Achilles injury. The Browns need a quarterback. And I talked about the Titans already. They need a quarterback too. So odds are the Giants are going to have to figure out, what they're going to do with the quarterback position. Are they going to go out in free agency, a trade? What is their plan? Now, I think the Giants, with the number 3 pick, should take the best player available and then, see what you could do. Maybe you go out and you trade for J.J. McCarthy. I think that's a potential option because, let's see what Sam Darnold does in this playoff game against the Rams. Because if Sam Darnold has another dud like he did on Sunday, maybe the Vikings feel, you know what, we're going to reset the clock. We're going to move forward with our young guy, Sam Darnold. Thank you for your services. And then J.J. McCarthy is inserted as the starting quarterback. Which I would kind of feel bad for Darnold if that happens. But you know what? Darnold's going to get paid a lot of money if he ends up leaving. Well, regardless if he stays or he leaves, he's going to get paid a lot. So that's something to keep an eye on. But maybe he gets paid by the Giants. Who knows? Yeah. But getting J.J. McCarthy, that's an option. Sam Darnold's an option. Kirk Cousins could be an option. Yeah, I wouldn't love Kirk Cousins just because of the season he's coming off of. But, it may be another year removed from the Achilles injury. I don't know. Maybe he would be better. But, yeah, I would stay away just because of the season he's coming off of. Let somebody else take on that contract. Because, who knows? Maybe he ends up in Cleveland with Kevin Stefanski. I don't know. But, yeah, I'm staying away from Kirk Cousins. Now, if I was getting Kirk Cousins before the Achilles injury, yeah, I take a chance on him, but not right now. But I even saying that, I still think Kirk Cousins is gonna figure it out again, and he'll be better. He'll bounce back from this tough stretch that he had. I mean, he threw for 500 yards in a game this year, so he still got it. It's just he lost confidence. I don't know what happened. But back to the Giants, though. So John Mara spoke to the media. He's talked about that he's run out of patience. He said that if there was any indication that the Giants were tanking, Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen would have been fired. This is what he did say on retaining. This was an official statement from him. So he said, now that our season is over, we felt it necessary to make this statement. Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll will continue in their respective roles with the organization. As disappointing as the results of the season have been, Steve Tisch and I remain confident in the process that Joe and Brian have implemented and their vision for our team. We look forward to the future and achieving the results that we all desire. They got a lot of work to do, and I think the Giants have a lot of cap space, so maybe they make some moves in free agency. Now, when the Giants have gone on a spending spree, I did see his tweet about this. When they've gone on to spend a lot, hasn't really panned out. Now, they did go on a spending spree in 2016. They improved the defense, and they did make the playoffs. But then the year after that, Eli got benched for Geno Smith. Ben McAdoo got fired midseason. It's just a terrible year. Then Dave Gettleman spent a lot of money. They brought in Kenny Golladay, and that season turned out to be a disaster as well. So, yeah, the track record when it comes to the Giants going on a spending spree is not good. And, Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll are coming into next year, a little desperate because, they've been given possibly this last chance to prove themselves. And, they got a lot of cap space, so they could go crazy. And this team needs to make a lot of improvements. There definitely should be some changes on the coaching staff. Shane Bowen, the defensive coordinator, I think should be gone. The defense took a step back. But also, it's not even just him. It's also the personnel on the defense, too. Some guys. But, yeah, I think he should be gone. Mike Kafka is interviewing for the Bears have requested to interview him. I'd be fine if he went elsewhere. So, yeah, there's some changes there. But, yeah, the Giants have a lot of work to do. Now, this past draft for Joe Schoen was good, so hopefully we get more of that going into this upcoming draft. He gets things right there. Because you drafted Malik Neighbors and Tyrone Tracy, and you also drafted Drew Phillips as well. So, yeah, the draft class wasn't that bad. It's pretty good. But the previous two is what sits wrong with Giant fans. And the other thing, too, is that's being brought up is the fact that you got to give more than just 1 year to Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen. Because if you give them 1 year with a young quarterback, if they end up drafting one, and the team ends up not doing well and you let them go, then yeah, you're kind of doing the same thing that you did to Daniel Jones, where he had Pat Shurmur for 1 year. Shurmur's gone. You bring in Joe Judge. He was only there for 2 years. Then he's gone. And then you bring in Brian Daboll. And then we're doing the same thing over and over again. Can't do that. Can't do that. So, like I said, I'm kind of indifferent on them coming back because, look, they're coming off of a really bad year. They've been regressing. The roster has more to say about Joe Schoen than Brian Daboll. So, look, they gotta go out there and knock it out of the park with this offseason. They got some good players on this team that they could build around. They need to have a good draft. And like I said, they got a decent amount of cap space. So, whether you got to address the defense, maybe add another playmaker or two on offense. Because, For me, like, the defense took a step back. The defense has some good players on this team. And the offense has some good players on this team too. But for me, I'm trying to address the offense however I can. Whether that's the offensive line, you add playmakers. The Giants need to build an elite offense. Because they have not had that since the Super Bowl, to be honest. You know, since the Super Bowl, the Giants have not been... Well, I guess you could say the 2015 season. 2015, their offense was pretty good. It's just their defense was historically bad. And had their defense have been average, the 2015 Giants would have made the playoffs. And who knows, maybe Eli would have made another run. Call me crazy. I don't know. But they have a lot of work to do. And they better get it right. They better get it right. Because if they don't, the Giants are going to go through the same thing that they've gone through for years. But we'll find out. We'll find out what they cook up in the offseason, the draft, free agency. It's just, you know, for me, I've just grown tired of them constantly losing to the Eagles and the Cowboys. It's just been for too long. They haven't won. This is the last thing I'll say before we go to break. They have not won in Philly since 2013 when Matt Barkley was playing quarterback for the Eagles. They have not won in Dallas since Dak's rookie year. That's how long it's been. Like, it needs to end at some point, right? Look at Washington. Took them 1 year. Now they're in the playoffs. They won 12 games after winning 4 the previous season. Can the Giants have a turnaround like that? We thought 2022 was going to be the start, but then they went right back to losing. Sustainability. That's something the Giants have not had in a very long time. So, yeah, we're going to go to break now. When we come back, we'll talk about the Steelers as they stumble into the playoffs, now dropping 4 in a row, and we'll talk about the game against the Bengals and what transpired there. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show now, we are going to get into the Steelers-Bengals game on Saturday. Steelers drop yet another game, and they stumble into the playoffs, losing 4 straight. And at one point, they were 10-3. They looked like they were in such a good spot. They had a chance to maybe, pass the Bills, possibly, even if they didn't lose 4 in a row, I don't think they would have caught the Bills. I think they would have been locked into at least a 3. You would have hosted a home playoff game at least. And you would have been a division winner. But that didn't happen. Nope. That did not happen. The Steelers ended up losing 4 games. They lost to the Eagles, the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Bengals. And now they will be the 6th seed. And they will be playing in Baltimore on Prime, Amazon Prime, Saturday night. And the game was not pretty. Now, the Bengals went right down the field on their first drive. Jamar Chase had a touchdown on that drive. And you thought, oh, this is not going to be good. Now, it still ended up turning out not to be good. But then after that, the Steelers defense held the Bengals to just field goals. But it was the offense that just continued to struggle. Russell Wilson has not looked great in recent weeks. George Pickens he had himself a game. 3 drops, I believe, in this game. 1 reception, no yards. Was really a no-show in this game. And after the game, he's getting into it with the fans. And the Steelers have had a history with wide receivers that like to act up. And we did talk about Antonio Brown a little bit earlier in the show, but that is one example of that. But you know what? The Steelers, they're used to this kind of behavior from their receivers. And George Pickens seems like he's trending down that path as the latest wide receiver to go along with the Antonio Browns. And, obviously there were the off-the-field stuff with Martavis Bryant, Chase Claypool, Juju Smith-Schuster with the TikToks. There's just always something with these Steelers receivers. And yeah, it's just not good. They're not going into the playoffs with momentum. Because at least you could say for last year, they had some momentum. They won 3 straight, and yeah, they ran into the Bills, and they lost. But now they're going in with no momentum. And now that they're going up against the Ravens, and look, the Ravens probably don't want to see the Steelers again. The Ravens themselves. I mean, maybe the fans probably figure, oh, we should wipe the floor with them again. This is an AFC North rivalry. You never know what's going to happen. Could be a close game like it was here, 19-17. The Steelers won 18-16 against them at their home stadium. Chris Boswell kicked 6 field goals. But I don't think that's going to happen. I don't want to make a pick yet, but I don't like the Steelers' chances going into this game against the Ravens. Now, that game in Baltimore a few weeks back got out of hand. It was close at one point, but there were some turnovers. Russell Wilson had a fumble when he was running with it. There was a pick 6. There were plays in that game that really changed the complexion of it. Also, the Ravens fumbled on special teams. Steelers couldn't recover it. Steelers had some missed opportunities there. But yeah, they go into this game, and I don't really, right now I don't really like their chances against the Ravens. But yeah, it's just, it could be another one of those years for the Steelers, once again, where they make the playoffs, Mike Tomlin gets his winning record, and then they're one and done. That's kind of how it's been for years now. It was like that last year. It was like that in 2021. They missed the playoffs in 2022. They went 9-8, and they just missed out on the playoffs. 2020, they got off to this great start, and then they kind of fell flat towards the end of the year. And then you lost to the Browns in the playoffs. You lost to them back-to-back weeks. You lost to them in the season finale, which you didn't really play anybody, or you at least just didn't play Ben Roethlisberger. And then you're down 28-0 in the first quarter. And then let's go back even further. 2017, they had a bye back when the 2 seeds used to get the bye. You get torched by Blake Bortles and the Jacksonville Jaguars. They put up 45 points on you, and you lose that game. Then the year before that, which was the last year that they won a playoff game, was the 2016-2017 playoffs. You beat the Chiefs because Chris Boswell kicked 6 field goals. And then you have Antonio Brown Instagram living after the game while Mike Tomlin is giving a post-game speech. And then they get torched by the Patriots. That was the last year that the Steelers ever won a playoff game. And I know I've said that numerous times. It has been a long time. And this year here felt like it was going to be different. But that's what people were saying in 2020. Doesn't look like it's going to happen. My guess right now is that we're going to be sitting here come Monday, and the Steelers will not be playing anymore. That's why, again, Mike Tomlin is a great coach. But it's been a long time since he's won a playoff game. And that Super Bowl that he won, it's a long time ago too. And many people say, my dad is someone that has said it, it was with Bill Cowher's team. But you know what? The Steelers are competitive almost every season. Hence why Mike Tomlin has never had a losing record. Hence why Mike Tomlin is a great coach. And I would take him. Many teams would take him. But Steeler fans, they're caught in this weird spot where they're competitive every year. But when it's all said and done, we don't look at them as one of the elite teams in the NFL. When I look at Super Bowl contenders, at least on the AFC side, it's Kansas City, it's Buffalo, and it's Baltimore. The Steelers are not in that conversation. They're not. And look, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson combined this year did a nice job. Now I see TikToks now all over the place of, Steeler fans wanting Justin Fields to start again. It's not going to happen. But they did do a nice job. But Russell Wilson in recent weeks has fallen flat. And they got to figure it out. Now, maybe you could look at it as, okay, they're due for a win. So maybe they pull off a massive upset against the Ravens. Maybe. But I just don't like their chances. Lamar Jackson has played out of his mind this year. I mean, it's just hard for me to see Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry go down this early in the playoffs. Now, we'll go over the bracket on Friday, but look, I don't have anybody beating Kansas City right now. That's not to say they can't be knocked off, but I wouldn't bet against the Chiefs. So that if the Ravens are going to lose in the playoffs, it's going to be against them. Or maybe the Bills. Because, if both the Bills and the Ravens win, they're going to be playing each other in the next round. Which, sign me up for that game. And it would be played in Buffalo this time. But, don't count out the Broncos. Don't count out the Broncos. That's going to be an interesting game, Broncos-Bills. But like I said, we'll get into all that on Friday. I haven't really talked about the Bengals, though. So, yeah, the Bengals did pick up the win here. And they just missed out on the playoffs. And I did bring this up when I was talking about Jerod Mayo and the Patriots. If the Bengals would have just won that game, they would be playing the Bills right now. And, the Patriots would have the number 1 overall pick. All they had to do was just win that game. But they just missed out. Jamar Chase won the Triple Crown. Joe Burrow, had he made the playoffs and the Bengals finished with a better record, he'd be right up there with Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson for MVP. It's going to be interesting what happens with T. Higgins at the end of the season. They want to keep him, but I don't know. It's going to be tough too. So that might have been his last game as a Bengal. Yeah, they just missed out. I mean, they also lost to the Steelers at home, and the Steelers put up 44 points against them. And I did say I didn't expect it to be, 44-38. It was the complete opposite. 19-17 is low scoring. But that's what ended up happening. Yeah, it's just not looking good right now for the Steelers. The Bengals at least finished the season strong. They went 9-8 now back-to-back years. Got to go all defense this offseason. Defense needs to become a priority. I believe they did let go of their defensive coordinator, which was the right decision. The defense was not good. But yeah, for the Steelers, unlike the Bengals, the Steelers still have an opportunity to do something. How are they going to come out against the Ravens on Saturday? Are they going to surprise us? They could. They could. It's a divisional game. Anything is possible. This is the third meeting now between these two teams. The Steelers have been embarrassed now for 4 weeks. Like I said, they're due. But maybe they're due for a win for the 2025 season and not this game upcoming. But like I said, we will talk about the game, all these games, when we get to Friday. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this game and the Steelers' 4-game losing streak. Do you think they right the ship here? Do you think they have a chance to pull off an upset against the Ravens? Let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our final break of the show now. And then when we come back, we will talk about another team that's kind of stumbling into the playoffs, and that's the Packers losing to the Bears on Sunday. So with that being said, for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're going to now get into talking about the Packers losing to the Bears. Final game of the season here. Game-winning field goal by Cairo Santos. And even if the Packers would have won, they would still be the 7th seed. But the game just wasn't pretty. There were some coaching miscues by Matt LaFleur, some turnovers and just lack of awareness in the game, because the Bears, they benefited from Packers' mistakes, and they kind of outsmarted them on one play. So Packers punted it off to them, and it was a little, misdirection by the Bears, because, the Packers didn't see where the ball was going when they punted it off, and they were focusing on one Bears player while the other one caught the ball and returned it for a touchdown. And then you also had Jaden Reed fumbling in their own territory, which led to another touchdown. So the Packers were down 14-3. Then on top of that, Jordan Love gets hurt, injures his elbow. Now, it doesn't appear to be too serious. He's going to play in this game on Sunday against the Eagles. But that's not what you want going into the playoffs, him getting hurt. Now, Matt LaFleur did say he was debating on whether or not to bring Jordan Love back in, but that ended up not happening. Malik Willis finished the game. I mean, the Packers, they had the lead, but they let the Bears get into field goal range, and, there was no blocked field goal that was going to bail them out this time because Cairo Santos made the game-winning field goal. But on top of that, it was confirmed that Christian Watson tore his ACL. So he's done for the year, or most likely tore his ACL. So he's, going to be out for this game against the Eagles. And it's, it's disappointing. He's had a disappointing start to his career because he has a ton of talent. And I remember, before the season started, I did a segment on, how he's approaching this season, what changes that he's made to his routine to avoid, the injuries that he's dealt with. And once again, this was another year that he just dealt with injuries, and that led to him, getting hurt once again. Because he was playing hurt in this game. And he unfortunately tore his ACL, and you just feel for him. And, he's going to try to come back next year, of course. He's probably going to miss the beginning of the season next year. But, hopefully he bounces back from this. But it's just tough seeing a young player have to deal with this. Because when he's on the field, he's a good player. He's their deep ball threat. And now you don't have that going into the playoffs. And, you're going to need him, for this game. I mean, they're really going to need all hands on deck for this game against the Eagles. But, yeah, just an ugly game for the Packers here. The Packers had won 11 straight games against the Bears, the longest streak by one team in a series that began in 1921. The Bears' last win in the rivalry was December 16th of 2018. So that was back when Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback and Mitchell Trubisky was the quarterback. That was the year that the Bears made the playoffs. That was the year of the double doink. Actually, we passed the 6-year anniversary of the double doink. So if you're a Bears fan, I'm sorry to bring that up, but I did see that pop up on my Instagram timeline. Matt LaFleur had been 11-0 versus the Bears before Sunday's loss. The Packers also entered the game as 10-point favorites. Justice T in the chat says, at this point, nobody cares. Yeah. Look, I mean, you got to focus on the playoffs. Now, I don't know what that was pertained towards what I was talking about. If you want to clarify. But, yeah, Packers like the Steelers, Packers are still in the playoffs. The Bears, they won their Super Bowl, quote unquote. DJ Moore made some comments after the game about beating the Packers. But, yeah, the Packers have owned the Bears for a long time. And, if it wasn't for a blocked field goal, Packers could have been winless against the NFC North. Think about that. They got swept by the Lions. They got swept by the Vikings. And they only won one game against the Bears, and that was because of a blocked field goal. Had they lost that game, they would have went 0-6 against their division. That's not good. And, I look at the Packers as being a good team, but they're another team that could be one and done. And this game coming up against the Eagles is going to be really tough. Now, they met way back in week 1. Feels like forever ago. I was complaining about drafting Josh Jacobs and Puka Nacua instead of Saquon because Saquon had 3 touchdowns in that game. And here we are, and, my friend who drafted Saquon ended up winning the league. I still made the playoffs, but ended up losing to him, and had I would have had Saquon, maybe things would have been different, but got to look forward to next year. But yeah, that game was a long time ago, and Jordan Love actually got hurt in that game. He got hurt on, the second to last play of the game? And, missed some time, came back. But, yeah, it was a long time ago. The Eagles' defense did not play well. Nobody's defense really played well in that game. The Eagles' defense since then has improved, and they're a strong unit. The Packers, they're banged up on defense. They're missing their top corner, Jair Alexander. And now, like I said, Christian Watson is out. Jordan Love still a little banged up going into this game. So, yeah, it's not looking good for the Packers right now. They're coming in with not a lot of momentum. For me, though, they got to start fast in that game against the Eagles. I understand that they like to establish the run with Josh Jacobs, but they need to get the passing game going. They got to get some big plays out of their passing game. And it's going to be very tough because you're on the road against a very good team that has a very good defense. But they got to figure it out. And last year, look, the odds were stacked against them when they played Dallas. Now, this game is going to be different because I think this Eagles team is better than the Dallas team that they went up against last year. And also last year, Jordan Love was coming in on a hot streak. These last 2 games hasn't been great. Now, he didn't play that much against the Bears, like I said, because he got hurt. And they were being, careful with him. But, yeah, they're not coming in with the same exact momentum like they did last year. I mean, they're definitely coming in better than how the Steelers are coming into the playoffs. So, yeah, we'll see how that game goes. But, yeah, I mean, to lose to the Bears and almost lose to them, the first when you guys when they met back in Chicago, could the tides be turning? Is it possible? I mean, I do think that if the Bears get the right head coach in place, they're going to be a better team next year. Caleb Williams, he showed you why he was the number 1 overall pick, but you know what? He's got a lot to learn. And I do think if they get the right head coach in place, he's going to be better. They're going to be a better team. So, then the Packers got to deal with them too. But, it's that was a tough loss, but they did beat themselves. That was ugly. And hopefully they could turn the page and get right for this game coming up against the Eagles here. But, yeah, not really liking their chances as of right now. But, then again, I picked Dallas last year to beat them in the playoffs, and look what happened. So, we shall see. But could that game-winning field goal by Cairo Santos on Sunday, has that led to now the tides changing, tides turning? Only time will tell. But yeah, let me know what you guys think though about this game, about the Packers going into the playoffs. I mean, yeah, look, in the Matt LaFleur era, the Packers have dominated against the Bears. At some point, the Bears were going to crack through and win a game. Matt LaFleur was not going to go undefeated against the Bears forever. It was going to change. But you don't want this to, if you're a Packers fan, you don't want this to continue because now all of a sudden, you're looking up at the Bears, and that usually hasn't been the case. Last time that really happened was 2018. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think about this game in the comments below, and how do you see the Packers doing on Sunday against the Eagles? You think they have a chance? I mean, they definitely have a chance. They got a good chance. But I'm not confident. I would lean towards not being as confident. But who knows? But yeah, that is pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Again, I apologize for the technical issues. Again, something I really just have never dealt with when getting ready for the show. But thankfully, like I said, I restarted my computer a couple times and eventually I got it to work. So hopefully we don't deal with that again. And that's in the rearview mirror. But hey, it wouldn't be a show of mine without some technical issues. Whether it's the camera or the microphone goes out or something. I mean, way back when I first started, I did almost an entire show without my mic being plugged in until I was alerted that, hey, you got no volume coming out. And I realized that I forgot to plug in my microphone. And of course, I wasn't paying attention to the levels moving on the bottom, which there were no levels moving because I didn't have my mic plugged in. So yeah, it's just, there's always some technical issues, but hey, we got through it. It is what it is. It's part of the show. It's part of the theatrics. So yeah, hopefully it doesn't happen again. Now I can't promise that there won't be any camera issues because those come up frequently. But yeah, hopefully the issue I had today doesn't happen again. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the show today. We'll be back again tomorrow. Almost halfway through the week when we get to, tomorrow. And we got our set sight on the playoffs. We got the semifinals for the college football playoff this week. Penn State, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Texas. We got football from Thursday to Monday when we get to Thursday. You got the 2 college football matchups. You got, the 2 games on Saturday in the NFL. You got the 3 games on Sunday, and then you got the 1 on Monday. So, big weekend, big football weekend coming up, all playoffs. So get ready for that. So yeah, that is all the time that we have for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows as well. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the video. And until next time, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.